Are you homesteading but feeling stuck in a rut? Knowing your why can give you the motivation you need to actively work towards growing your homestead. In this episode, learn how to unlock your why, what that means, and how it can help you take leaps and bounds forward on your homesteading journey. Let's get growing. Hello, and welcome to the Pray Just Plant podcast, the show that talks about growing a garden, a homestead, a healthy family, and most importantly, growing closer to God. I'm your host, Crystal Media, owner of the Red Ridge Farm Homestead, where our mission is to help women of faith find the courage to grow healthy food for their family while building a closer relationship with our Lord and Savior. That's you. Don't let the world hold you back. Pray, just plant. Hello, fellow growers, and welcome to the Pray Just Plant podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Media, and today in season 12, episode 8, we are going to be talking about your why and unlocking your why and how it can increase your growth on your homestead, in your garden, in your purposeful journey. This episode can kind of go two ways if we're talking about the purposeful growing journey. You could be in the just grow stage trying to figure out your why, and that's where I'm going to put this episode, but this could also be for all of you in all the other stages. Maybe you're struggling in the garden, or maybe you're struggling in the homestead, or maybe you're struggling in the home. Maybe you're struggling in one of those areas, and you need to come back to this area. You need to come back to the just grow stage and figure out your why, or change your why, or just reiterate your why. Why are you doing this? To help you stay motivated, to help you figure out why things are not jiving the way they need to be going. Why, yes, your why answers why a lot. Why you need to maybe change things up so that you can really connect back to your purpose, and so much more. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this episode. No matter what stage of the purposeful growing journey you're in, this episode is for you. But if you're in the just grow, I really do suggest that you listen to it, especially if you have not done your why, or you think, why do I need a why? This episode will encourage you because it's unlocking your why that gives you your purpose. So what does it mean to unlock your why? That was a really bold statement, wasn't it? Your why unlocks your purpose. So when you unlock your why, you are going to be able to see your purpose, see why you started growing, why you want to continue growing, and so much more. In the purposeful growing, just grow stage, this is one of the things that you need to do to move on to the next stages, because what finding your why is going to do is it's going to give you guidelines. It's going to give you a view of what you want to see in the future, and why, I'm going to be using that word a lot today, why you are even going down this path. Why are you choosing to grow your own food? Growing your own food is hard. Why are you choosing to raise animals and raise a garden? Growing animals and raising a garden is hard, and it adds even more on top of what we're already doing in this world. Maybe raising kids and being a homemaker and working outside of the home maybe, and it's going to add more to your life. Why are you doing this to yourself? So when you find that why, find that purpose of why you're doing it, you're going to be able to fall back on it and understand your purpose. Understand, especially when things get hard, you have something to lean on and be like, well, I wanted to do this because I'm doing this for my children. I want them to have better food. I want them to experience responsibility. I want them to be, I'm telling you my why pretty much right now. I want to create a lifestyle in my home that is different than the world. I want to be separate. God asked me to be separate, and this is a way that I know that I can be. I can be separate from the systems, and we can grow in a different mindset than the world. That's my why. What's your why? And what it means to unlock your why is that you will have, the words are just not coming to me. I wanted to say purpose over again, but you will have a strategy to fall back on. You will have, in a way, a guideline, a viewpoint that can help you grow because you have a path. Your why can help you mold your path and point down different landmarks that might be on your path. And unlocking your why means that you can experience that direction. You can experience that guidance. You can experience that purpose that is deep down inside of you and that has been given to you by God. So how can unlocking your why help you grow on your homestead? I think I've given a lot of reasons, but let's dive in a little bit deeper into that. What does it mean to have purpose? What does it mean to have direction? What does it mean to have guidelines? When we are, especially I know, when I find situations where I'm struggling on the homestead, especially maybe after a loss of an animal that I experienced this year, or a few years ago when I had a hailstorm, wiped out my whole garden, or when I experience failure, I can go back to my why. Even though I've been doing this for 20 years, I've had moments where I've said, why am I doing this? And questioning myself, why am I putting myself through this? Why am I putting my family through this? We've had some hard times where my kids have lost animals. We've had some hard times where it feels like we're just constantly working all the time because that's what a homestead is. We've got to clean the animal pens out. We got to do this. We got to do that. And we feel that stress and we feel that overwhelm. But every time we have a family meeting and we say, why are we doing this? And the kids join in too. And they're like, we want to do this because I enjoy growing animals. I enjoy going out and feeding them every day. Sometimes it does feel like a labor, but sometimes it's fun. The biggest thing is I enjoy my morning every single day having to get outside and not just be stuck in my video games and not be just stuck in my world, but I'm able to expand out and get responsibility. They feel that this as well. And you can do the same when you're feeling a failure, or maybe even you're feeling a success. You can be going back to your why and say, look, I get to click this off. We did this. We built the barn that we said we were going to do so that we can do the dairy that we said we were going to do so that we can provide fresh milk for our family because we want to. Our essential goal is to grow better food for our family. Having that why and unlocking that why can really help you on the homestead because you can see your purpose, especially when you're feeling unmotivated or even when you are feeling extremely motivated, because then you're going like, what do we do next? You can go back to your why and say, okay, this is the guidelines. These are the steps that I need to do. We have the dairy now. What can we do now? I have the garden. Okay, well, maybe I need to expand into what are we going to do with all this milk? Maybe I need to start taking some cheese classes or learning what to do with all the milk that we're going to be getting from our dairy goats or whatever the next step is. Your why is going to be that guide, that stepping stone so that you can go back to it and say, this is the next step. This is the next step. So maybe now you're asking, okay, I need a why. I need a why. How do I do this? How do I identify what my why is? How do I do that? Well, you can definitely go to my website and go into the Just Grow stage, and it's going to help you find your why, and it's going to walk you through those steps. And in fact, myself, right now, I am going to this page because I want to make sure that I'm giving you the best tips. And if you go to my website, on the homepage, it's right in the top menu, Purposeful Growing Journey, and it'll take you directly there. And I'm going to go to action steps, and it says define your purposeful journey by asking yourself a few important questions everyone should ask before they start homesteading. So what are these questions that you should be asking yourself? I have a great blog post and podcast episode that dives into these questions as well and really steps through them very quickly. I'm going to run over to that episode really quick and just list off those questions. We're not going to discuss them, but I'm going to just give them to you really quick. I encourage you to go listen to this episode. I have a lot of them. Did you know that there's more than almost 100 to 200 blog posts? This is in season 3, episode 1. And the top questions are, what is your purpose for starting a homestead? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to break away from the norm of running to the grocery store and fulfilling your family's food needs? What are your goals? What does your dream homestead look like? How self-sufficient are you willing to be? Sometimes we have to be willing to do things. How much time do you have to give to the homestead? Do you work outside the home? Do you have other responsibilities that God has placed on your heart that you need to do first before you do the homestead thing? Do you have a plan for learning these new skills that homesteading is going to involve? What are you going to grow? What are your land needs going to be? Can you grow right where you're at right now? And yes, the answer is yes. Even without land, you can grow right where you are. What equipment are you going to need? Do you want to save money? Do you want to make money from your homestead? What are you going to sell? So there's a lot of questions out there. There's some great resources too. If you go to all the way to the end of this blog post, there's some great resources by Joel Salatin, Richard Perkins about creating a homestead, some things that you need to be asking yourselves about what your purpose is on the homestead, what your plans are. I will put the link in the show notes for this episode. That is how you identify your why. You ask yourself questions. You ask your family questions. Maybe this is something you do with your husband. Maybe this is something you do with your kids. Because some of the things that you might be willing to do, they're not willing to do. You need to hash those things out with your family. And then once you get those questions figured out, you find your why, you find your purpose. Now you need to put your why into practice. So what were those goals that you had? Were they to start making your own bread and just testing out the waters of homesteading? Maybe seeing if you like to cook with a whole chicken or those types of things. Putting your why into practice is now making a grow plan. Oh man, that would be a great resource, wouldn't it? Me help you make a grow plan. That would be a great resource. I will have to put that on my list of a resource. So making a grow plan. How are you going to accomplish your goals? How are you going to break down your goals? I have some great blog posts and podcast episodes on breaking down your goals. But once you find your center goal or what you're going to start with, then you can break that down into smaller pieces. And that's where you're going to be putting your why into practice, because you want to use your why as a stepping stone. You want to use your why as a guide, as a purpose to your next steps, because when you do that, you will always be connected to your why, but then you'll also be able to choose and pick, because sometimes, and I know that's why I broke down the purpose of growing journey into stages. I know growing a homestead is huge. It's a huge venture. It's overwhelming. It's amazing. The things that you can do. There's so many things out there, and you can get tunnel vision into one thing. That's what your why is going to do, is going to give you that tunnel vision. But sometimes when you don't have your why and you don't have your purpose, you can be overwhelmed. You can be watching this YouTube channel, and I felt overwhelmed sometimes too in my growing journey. And every time when I feel that way, or I see the new glittery thing, right? Oh, that sounds good. Oh, I want to go do that. That would be so amazing on our homestead. But then I go back to our why and I say, well, that's not going to fit into our plans yet. That's not going to fit into our plans just yet, but I'm going to write it down for future. And you can do that too. Your why should be always ever expanding, always moving forward. But that doesn't mean you need to be accomplishing it right now and jump into that overwhelming situation. But your why can get you there. When we look at the big encompassing things of all the things on the homestead, we can become overwhelmed. Oh, should I be in the home? Should I be out in the garden? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? And that overwhelm can put us into, what's the word? I want to say petrified, but it's not. It's like where you stop moving. You freeze in place. By putting your why into practice, you'll be able to overcome that overwhelm, because you can come back not so much into yourself, but into your plan, into the purpose God has guided you through. And you can say, okay, you said that you wanted to develop a mini dairy this year. You said that your why has motivated you to start meat chickens this year. Those are the two things that you're working on this year. And it's okay to learn about other things, and it's okay to write some new ideas down. But this is the goal that you've placed for yourself. Now, pull back a little bit. Take a breather. Relax. These are just two goals that you're working on, and you can do it. That's what your why can do for yourself. It can talk to you in a way that brings the calm back. It can bring your purpose back into focus. That's my greatest thing that I love about the why that my husband and I have worked so hard to mold for ourselves, is that it can reign in my brain when I want to do all the things. Because don't you feel that, like the beginning of the year, it's like, oh, I got a new year started. We're going to do this, and 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 this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and that. And I've learned over 20 plus years of homesteading that that's amazing. That energy is fun, but that energy is not going to hold you through all of the doing of those things. You need to limit them. You need to do one project a month. You need to focus on one project a week, and you need to bring it down and build a plan for your goals. And I do need to make a resource for this, don't I? Because what I do every new year is we pick 2 overleaping goals, like really big goals that we want to do. And my husband even just mentioned it this morning. We need to have our ranch meeting. And we do. We need to have our ranch meeting where we pick and we discuss between us and the family of what are the goals we want to do. Are we wanting to expand the dairy farm this year? Are we wanting to grow more produce? How did the market garden do last year? Was it helpful for us? Did it bring in a lot of revenue? Or was it our first year and we can just say that we did make revenue, but it was our first year, we did have a lot of establishing costs and so on and so forth. And then we can look forward. We can look forward to the next year. And what I'm talking about is doing a growing audit. There is a resource. I do have that resource in the Purpose of Growing Journey on the resource page that you do a growing audit. But we can look at it and we can find those overlapping goals, like huge goals. So I hope this episode has been eye-opening for you, that you do need a why, because when you unlock your why and you find your purpose, you are going to be able to move forward on your growing journey by leaps and bounds. Be sure to jump over to the Just Grow stage of the Purpose of Growing Journey to learn more about developing your why and your goals. Go over and listen to that podcast episode about the questions you should be asking yourself. Another related episode that I have for you is why you need progress over perfection. It's a big thing that we've battled, and your why can help you with that there, and so much more. So again, thank you for joining me here in the Pray Just Plant podcast. And as always, don't let the world hold you back. Pray Just Plant. This week's episode is brought to you by the Planning Beyond the Harvest handbook. This handbook was designed to help you get your harvest onto your family's plates. We grow all this delicious food, and sometimes in the garden planning, we forget about the harvest and beyond the harvest. This workbook will walk you through the 5 steps that I use to get beyond the harvest. You can grab your copy at redridgefarm.org/resources.